Hi everyone, it's me Gaming Do, and as you can sort of tell on my voice, I've been a little sick for the past little while, but that's why I didn't get to this review a little sooner, is because I felt sick for the past 4 to 5 days, and it's been freaking not the worst sickness I've ever had. I'll say this, it was really tame compared to the sickness I had in January. So it wasn't as bad as the one I had in January, but it was still to the point where I didn't feel like doing a YouTube video. But now I think I'm at the point where I can make a YouTube video. So without further ado, over the time I made my last YouTube video and that update I made the other day, I saw the movie Spider-Man Far From Home, which I think was my fourth to most anticipated film of 2019. I loved Homecoming to death. It was my second favorite film of 2019. Or not 2019, 2017 if I'm not mistaken. Homecoming was a fucking blast from beginning to end. Initially when I saw it, I gave it like a B, but I would give it an A plus easily now. It's one of the best comic book movies ever made in my opinion. So when I went into Far From Home, I had big expectations, and when I got into the first half of this film, let's just say I wasn't happy. But when the second half came on, I was happy. Initially, what I think of Spider-Man Far From Home is that the first half of this film, if it turned out to be like that throughout the entire movie, Spider-Man Far From Home would have been the worst film of 2019 so far, beating out Captain Marvel. But what makes this film, in my opinion, slightly better than Captain Marvel is its second half. This movie's second half is leaps and bounds better than the first half. And I'm going to get into some spoilers for this movie, so if you have not seen Spider-Man Far From Home, please avoid this video because there will be spoilers. As expected with all my new movie reviews, I just go into spoilers. So, with my reviews, please go see the movie before you see my reviews. Okay, with that out of the way, the thing I did not like about the first half of the film was that it was like we didn't even see Spider-Man until almost an hour into the film. Really, like, okay, you saw his suit and stuff like that, and you saw Peter, but it was basically just Peter and his class, and I love that aspect in Homecoming. But we saw bits and pieces of Spider-Man throughout the first half of Homecoming. Yeah, he wasn't in any great action scenes or anything, but we saw Spider-Man. We didn't get to see Spider-Man in action or him put the suit on for almost an hour, I think. And if you want to get technical, it wasn't until the end of the movie that he actually put the actual Spider-Man suit on. Because, yeah, the stealth suit, which he puts on, is great. I love the look of it. I love the fact that it's sort of a callback to the symbiote suit, maybe? I'm not sure, but it was not as good looking as the other suits that he wore in the MCU so far. Also, I've heard from a couple reviewers about this. I didn't like Ned nearly as much as I did in Homecoming. I felt like he was kind of a jerk in this film. He was going to take basically a girl over Peter's friendship, I think is what they were basically saying in this film. And, bro, your best friend is Spider-Man, basically. I don't know if that would be the coolest friend I could possibly have, but still, Spider-Man could never beat my real best friend, obviously. But this comes into our next aspect, which is the relationship between Mary Jane Watson and Peter. Or, frick. Sorry, I'm kind of sick right now, so I'm getting a little mixed up. It's not Mary Jane Watson, it's Michelle, or MJ as they call her in this movie, played by Zendaya. Her and Peter have a crush on each other throughout the entire movie. And then Peter buys this black necklace for her. And then at the end of the movie, they do get together, they kiss. And I thought this was one of the good aspects of the film. I feel like they honestly portrayed the love more realistic and better than the previous two incarnations of Spider-Man. I feel like, especially Tobey Maguire, that was just a freaking... That was the Mary Jane. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say Mary Jane. I meant to say Michelle or MJ. But the way they portrayed Mary Jane in the original Spider-Man trilogy and her and Peter's relationship felt way too overdramatic, and I'm one of the few who will say I don't like the relationship between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield in the Amazing movies. I honestly think some of the action scenes in those movies are better than their relationship, even though I'm not a big fan of those movies. I do love the Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, though, but... So, yeah. What about the Spider-Man action that does happen in the film? Well, before we get to that, we have to go into what is by far my favorite aspect of Spider-Man Far From Home. This, in my opinion, might be the best thing in this category we've ever gotten from a Spider-Man movie, and this may be controversial. I'm not sure. I don't think the film's been out long enough to really hold this title, maybe, but I think Mysterio might be the best Spider-Man villain in movie history. The scenes towards the middle-ish end of the movie where he puts Spider-Man in the fucking illusion. Oh my god, those scenes right there are better than anything in Homecoming. The scenes where Spider-Man, like, I'll give you an example. He puts him in an illusion where basically he sees the grave of Tony Stark, who died in Endgame. Rest in peace. But then he comes back as a zombie and there's a freaking spider crawling out of his eye, and those are some of the fucked up things Mysterio can do to your mind, and it is just... The visuals Mysterio brings off are incredible. All the, like, elemental monsters were actually illusions created by Mysterio. And everyone kind of expected he was actually going to be the villain, but they portrayed him. He was going to be a side hero, sort of, but everyone knew he was going to be the villain because he's always been a Spider-Man villain. And he is the villain of the movie, and he is an excellent villain. Wow, he is better than Vulture, way better than Electro, better than Lizard. Better than Sandman and Venom. I'll say arguably better than Doc Ock and Green Goblin. This guy was freaking awesome. I loved Mysterio in this film. My God, they portrayed him great. And that leads into the post-credits scenes, which I have to talk about. One of them is the Nick Fury and Maria Hill were actually Skrulls throughout the entire movie, while Samuel L. Jackson's character was... or they were on a vacation throughout the entire movie, and basically Nick Fury is a mentor to Peter throughout the entire movie, and they were actually Skrulls in disguise, actually. But the other post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, is actually better. And that scene is when J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, fucking comes back. Oh my God. This was probably more surprising to me than anything in Avengers Endgame. When I saw J. Jonah Jameson come back, I almost fell out of my chair. I was so surprised. It was like, wow, that was incredible. And he was played by J.K. Simmons again. It was a great scene. I can't wait to see him in Spider-Man 3. I'm pumped to see him again. That wasn't... He's not really what you'd expect. He's sort of like a blogger now, I guess you could say, rather than a newspaper anchor. But he's... wow. That was probably the most surprising scene in the entire movie. But what does he say about Spider-Man, you may ask? He reveals that Mysterio recorded a video where he revealed Spider-Man or Peter Parker's real name to be Peter Parker. Like, now everyone knows in the MCU that Spider-Man is Peter Parker because of Mysterio's video. And he has that whole act on its conscience now, and he has to deal with that, I guess, throughout the MCU now, which I get how this is going to impact the MCU, especially Spider-Man now. A lot of people were predicting that Oscorp was going to appear, and I don't think it does. I never saw anything about it, but yeah. And I don't have much else to say about this movie. Oh, one more thing. The places they went to in terms of like... Or I could actually mention two more things. We'll start with that. The European locations in this film were beautiful. Prague, Italy, London, Berlin... The place they went to in the Alps, I think. Those were all beautiful filming locations. It was absolutely incredible. And then the last thing I'll mention about this movie is the final fight between Mysterio and Spider-Man in London. It was a pretty good final fight. I honestly probably prefer the... No, I won't say that. I was going to say I prefer the final fight between Vulture and Spider-Man in Homecoming, but it's probably about the same. This one's definitely more large scale, but I think the emotion might have been better in Homecoming's final battle. So where does this leave me? Let me tell you this right now. I did not like Far From Home as much as Homecoming. Unfortunately, I can't say it's as good as that movie. I feel like Homecoming is a damn near perfect Spider-Man film. Might even be my favorite down from the original, or right next to the original. But is this a good, great Spider-Man movie nonetheless? I'll say yes. Especially because of Mysterio, the post-credit scene, the Spider-Man scenes in this movie were really cool. And I'm going to give Spider-Man Far From Home, a B+. Spider-Man Far From Home is a really good movie. I wouldn't really recommend it as much as Homecoming or a lot of the MCU films, but as for my ranking for the 2019 films so far, here's how it'd go. 4, Captain Marvel. 3, Spider-Man Far From Home. 2 and 1 are really hard to say. But I go 2, Avengers Endgame, and 1, Toy Story 4. The 2 and 1 were extremely hard, but Toy Story 4 did not disappoint me at all. I loved almost everything about that movie. Well, I had maybe a couple more problems with Endgame. But that's besides the point. This is a B+ movie, and as for the rest of the movies I want to see in 2019, and they will definitely have reviews, and if they're not reviewed, they will at least be on my ranking of the 2019 movies at the end of the year. Those movies being Aladdin, Detective Pikachu, Child's Play, It Chapter 2, I wouldn't mind seeing How to Train Your Dragon 3, and that's all I can really think about right now. If I see any... Oh, I might go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood also. But that basically does it for this video. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.